Well, it's definitely been a privilege in that sense. Also, a few of the players actually didn't have a game in the weekend, so they came in completely fresh on Monday, so we could be up and running on a Monday session and then train 5 days in a row with a couple of double sessions as well in terms of a walkthrough and gym session and such, and a lot of meetings. So 5 days full of content, and we said on Wednesday that if we compare that to the last camp when half of the team arrived at midnight on Tuesday and we had a startup session on Wednesday and then 2 training sessions, this is a completely different camp in that sense. But I want to be clear, that doesn't mean we don't like to be in our Australia and on home soil to play our games. We love that. But in terms of training content, this week has been one of the best weeks since I arrived in terms of the amount of training that we've been able to do together.
We have some journalists in the room and also online. If you're online, please use the raise your hand function and I'll come to you. But for the moment, we'll start with Room and Ben Gilby.
Yeah, starting with South Africa first. So they're a team that they thrive on possession and move in quick transitions. But conversely, they've got a lack of height at the back as well. So there's Matley, who's 1m64, Mabani, who's 162. So how are we kind of looking at impacting those areas tomorrow?
Have you been in our tactical meetings this week? Because you're spot on. No, but you're spot on. We obviously identify the opponents as we always do, and South Africa is a team with a lot of power and pace and technique. Their individual skills is actually brilliant. I'm impressed when I look at them. No matter who plays, they have that pace and power and technique, and they can hurt any team in transition. And it's not just central with the central forwards, it's the wide forwards as well, and the amount of running they do. And they use that skill in defending as well, so they make the game a lot about 1v1s. There's a lot of marking elements, so they say, okay, it's between you and me today, and they make it the 1v1, and they're proud about those 1v1s. They're tough in the duels as well. And they have the pace even in the back line in terms of when you try to get in behind them, they're really pacey. Yes, they lack some height, but their vertical jumps is actually very good. They have conceded some goals on crosses and set plays, as we've seen previously, and we spent a lot of time on that today to look at the deliveries from the wide areas, but also set plays, which we think is going to be a massive part of the game. But I think the number one thing for us is that we try to control the game and make the game the way we want it to be, because if it becomes a stretched game with a lot of running and a lot of 1v1s, it's to their advantage. If we get a compact, when we're more in control, whether it's with or without the ball, I think it's to our advantage. So we want to try to make this game the way we want it, which is a challenge because we've seen them play top teams. Give you an example, when they played in 2019 against Spain, they were winning 1-0 up until the minute 70. And it took a PK for Spain to get back into that game, and then Spain won 3-1 finally, but South Africa was winning 1-0. When they play Brazil now, they kept a clean sheet. They played 0-0 up until the 42nd minute before Brazil scored a goal, and that was a mistake from their goalkeeper. So we're expecting a really tough challenge tomorrow.
Yeah. So, I mean, there's been a lot of talk in the past about the number 6 role in the team. So, but what do you want to see from your other central midfielders? So what sort of roles do you want from them in conjunction, sort of building that reaching the bigger picture?
You're on to something that we've spent a lot of time working on this camp. We've tried to find the best midfield combination. Sometimes it's not always about the best players, it's about the best combination. So you look at what's the best centre-back pairing, what's the best left side combination, what's the best link between a 9 and 10, what's the best link between a 6 and 8 in midfield. And we spent a lot of time on that cohesion and have 5 training days. It's been fantastic. And then the fact that we have some players that is playing maybe the best footballs of their life right now, with Katrina Gore dominating the Swedish league and is phenomenal with us. Kyra Kuhne-Kross, who's been amazing and was announced as the team of the week in Sweden. And then obviously you have Mary Fowler from before, that's been phenomenal in the 10 position. So we've spent a lot of time looking at it. What we want, except from that 6, is that we want to find that cohesion and the link between the players, play a little bit closer to each other so they can play off each other more, but also we looked at the balance when we get dispossessed, because that's an area where we have struggled, the defending transitions, and we need to not just have a 6 to protect the back line, we need more midfielders helping out defensively in the central area of the park.
Yeah, I've just got one more from me, is that okay?
Yeah.
So, I mean, as the World Cup's less than a year away now, so I just wondered where we were in terms of settling on a regular number 1 goalkeeper, or is it likely that we might go into the World Cup with sort of Teagan, Lydia and Maka all having game time?
Well, I said after that summer window, I said we spent 18 months now giving every player an opportunity, every player playing time, including the goalkeepers, and then 17 debutants. We said, starting with the September window, that we're going to try to narrow down a little bit and make it more clear. So we're going to see less rotation on the goalkeepers, but they're still up for grabs. Come the World Cup, I think we're going to have a clear number one, but as of now, they're still fighting for that spot. It has to do of playing time in clubland and how they perform in clubland, but also what they do when they come in with us.
Okay, thanks.
Glenn.
Hi.
Hi.
I was outside trying to find my way in. So apologies, this has already been asked. I mean, do you feel under a bit of pressure to get results after the results you've had, or obviously 10 months after the World Cup, then the Olympics, been a bit of a dip in the meantime where you've experimented a bit. Is it sort of time that results matter maybe more than performances?
I think you're onto something. I think result matters. I said this after the last camp against Canada. I think the result matters in terms of getting the momentum internally with the players of confidence, but more so getting the momentum from the outside, because we have a World Cup on home soil, and you want to have the fans, the media, the stakeholders, everyone back home feeling, hey, you know what, we believe in this team. So in that sense, I do think result is important. I think from an internal perspective, both when it comes to the federation and the players, they know what we've done and why the result has been what it's been. So I don't think the need is as strong internally. It would be good for the confidence, but more so for the momentum outside, because there is a belief internally and an understanding why it's been like the tough schedule, the amount of debutants, amount of players unavailable for camps and such. And that's not excuses. It's me as a coach, I take responsibility for the result, so I'm not making excuses, just trying to explain the journey. But you're onto something. I think it is important with the result for the momentum, yeah.
I mean, a lot of parallels here with the situation with the England men's team needing the result going into the World Cup, just to get that momentum up and a bit of belief.
Exactly, and then you see what happened throughout that tournament, how that belief just started to rise, and how much that inspiration just brought on from the stands to the field as well. And I had the privilege to be here seeing the Euros in England, and what that team, how they grow together with the fans during the tournament was amazing. Of course, you sit there as a coach for a team that's going to have a World Cup on home soil, and you kind of picture what it could be like home in Australia in 23.
I mean, are you guys speak to Serena about, or have you spoken to Serena about, because obviously being at home brings special pressures as well as many advantages. So the expectation, all the noise around the team that you don't necessarily get in your way.
I haven't spoken to her personally, but what I think she did really good together with the players is they stuck with a very clear plan. Two things that stand out for me with that team is, one, they went all in with the starting lineup because they knew continuity in a lineup is key for success. She did the same thing with Holland back then, and you can see it on the men's side in tournaments as well, meaning continuity in lineup in a tournament is key. But also they had clear game management, clear substitution, who came off the bench in terms of the same three players rotating through all the time. That impresses me. But the other thing that impressed me was how they communicated with the fans, the media and the stakeholder. They never spoke about result once. They only spoke about inspiring a nation. They all talk about inspiring and belief. And they got that belief behind them, and then the results stopped coming. So instead of getting stuck on focusing on the result, they talked about inspiration, and they did a great job media-wise in that.
Of course, having a very fixed team has its own pressures in terms of the 10 players who aren't playing, who obviously you still need and might have to step in at some point.
Yeah. I mean, we worked on the depth for a long time now, but player availability, like one of the reasons we were so successful in the Olympics in terms of successful the first time we made it semi-final, is we had most player available that this team have ever had in a tournament before. And after that tournament, it's been a lot of rotation for different reasons. I have wanted to test the depth, but also we have had a lot of injuries, which is, it is what it is with football, and you need to do the best you can, but it's never fun when you want to try to work on continuity to have 5, 6, 7 players out, not even being here in camp.
I mean, on that, I mean, obviously you've got some players out, but South Africa have quite a lot of players out. Are they in some respects an ideal team to play when you're looking to get a result in that their respected team as African nation champions, yet they're also 54th in the world, and they have their own issues in terms of availability and injuries and so on?
Yeah, I think, first of all, I think it's dangerous to look at the ranking when you say 54 in the world. It might say it's going to be an easy game, because if you look at what they have performed before, I think I said that when they played Spain in the World Cup, they were winning 1-0 until minute 70. That's against Spain in the World Cup. This team can compete, and they won the African nation. You need to really respect a team like that. And they have individual qualities, even if they have also players unavailable, which we have. It's going to be a tough game. We need to respect this team a lot, and be humble enough to know it's going to be a tough game.
I'm just going to go to the screen for a little while. We'll start with Catherine.
Yeah, hi, thanks. Obviously, you weren't in charge at 2019 World Cup, but I mean, what do you think you've brought to the team since your arrival, and how much have things changed, do you think?
Well, that's probably for the players to answer, I think. The things we have worked on, the Federation was very clear when they appointed me to this role. They had done a report that said that there was a huge gap between the generations, and we needed to fill that gap with depth. They didn't have enough depth, and that was very clear in my appointment, that they wanted me to work on that depth and give more players an opportunity to get caps, so that we broaden that depth. That was one thing that I think I brought. They averaged 2.3 debutants per year over the last decade, and now we had 17 debutants over 18 months. So I think I brought that. The other thing that they asked me to bring was tournament experience, how you go far and deep into tournaments. And I had the privilege to go deep into tournaments, both Olympics and World Cup. And we worked hard going into that Olympics on what we call game management. How do you manage games in a tournament, whether it's managing a lineup, manage scenarios in a game where you're up a goal, down a goal, how you manage extra time, how you prepare for PKs. And I think I've brought that game management piece into it as well. And the final thing that they were very keen on was to make sure we create a high performance environment with well-being as a center of that, meaning the player-centric well-being approach. And we worked really hard on that as well. So maybe those three areas are the ones that I brought.
Do you have a follow-up, Catherine?
No, that's brilliant. Thank you very much.
Cam.
Hi Tony, I hope you're well. There's an element of frustration growing amongst Australian women's football fans, and you were mentioning you wanted to build this sort of momentum in order to get the fans back on side. How do you see yourself doing that over the next two games and then going forwards?
I tried to be better starting last camp to explain the processes. I don't think I've done a great job explaining why we've done what we've done. Try to be a little bit more transparent now as well about that, so that there's more educational, meaning I do a better job informing and educating people about the processes, why we are where we are. I think that could be one way. Doesn't mean everyone like what we're doing, but at least understand why we've done what we've done with debutants and rotations and such. And the other thing, I think we talked about it earlier, meaning sometimes the only thing that gets the momentum going is results. Internally, we do feel that we have the momentum and the belief, but in terms of getting that, external momentum, sometimes it is results. So we're going to do everything we can to win the games. Is it a challenge now with all the players unavailable? Yes, but we had that against Canada as well, and we just need to do the best we can. I can't lie and try to sit here smiling and think it's fun to have that many players unavailable 3 camps in a row. We gave some players off in June because they were mentally and physically fatiguing, and we didn't want to have them to burn out, so they had the camp off. And then in Canada we had tons of injuries, and then the same thing again, tons of injuries coming into this camp. So, but that is what it is, and we need to do the best with what we got.
Follow up?
Do you have any more fitness concerns coming into this game? Obviously you've had a few players have to withdraw, but is everyone fit and healthy within the camp at the moment?
I play it like I would if it was a World Cup, to say no comments on that. We have a couple of question marks, but I want to keep that internally until tomorrow. But there's two players we have question marks on when it comes to availability for tomorrow's game.
That's understandable. And just finally, you have had this really bad luck with these injuries. Do you see this sort of clearing up in the future, or is this something that you're just going to have to deal with even in 12 months' time when the World Cup's on?
Well, I definitely hope I don't have to deal with it, but football, I've been coaching for almost a quarter of a century now, and there's always going to be something, that from experience, but this is unique. I don't think I've ever experienced anything like this in terms of the amount of players unavailable. And some of them are long-term and we don't know when they're coming back. Alana shoulder rupture, Kaya Simon now, which is a devastating news when it comes to her coming back and then get injured. And then you have Ellie coming back from the ACL injury. You have Tamika Yallop with the foot injury that it's a question mark how long time she is going to be gone now. So there's some players there that obviously is uncertain when are they going to come back and what kind of form and fitness are they going to be in come the World Cup. But that's a little bit too far away for me to speculate in right now. I'm going to focus on being excited about tomorrow's game, where we have 4 to 5 youngsters out there that still have very, very few caps, some of them less than 10, to get the experience to play maybe against an African team for the first time in their career and get that depth building again, and some of them have starting to really show me that they want to compete for a starting spot as well amongst these young ones. So I'm going to try to be excited about those ones tomorrow, because I am, and they look good in training as well.
Thanks, Cam and Catherine. We'll go back to the room. A final question for each of you, Ben and Glenn.
Yeah, I'm just thinking, obviously, we've got players out. In terms of the game tomorrow and Denmark, are we still in a situation where we might lose the game but win more players, or is it now we're past that, it's now we want performances and we want results?
Every time we step on the field, we're looking to win. Every time, and that's what we're going to do tomorrow as well. If we lose, we're going to see what did we learn and what did we win. Like I said, we're going to see a lot of young players out there tomorrow with less experience than some had before, and that's a good thing in the sense that they get to experience playing an African team. But that doesn't mean we're going to use that as an excuse not to try to win. We're going to do everything we can to win the game tomorrow.
And finally, Glenn.
I know you've obviously worked in America quite a lot, and quite a lot of your players have played there. Have you set time aside internally to maybe discuss whether the report that's coming out in America has impacted on players in the squad? I mean, obviously the Americans are here in town. I know that they're clearly obviously been discussing a lot. I know the England squad have been discussing as well. I wonder if it have affected your squad.
Well, first of all, out of respect that I haven't read it, I heard it came out, but we've been in camp, and when you're in camp, you're kind of in that bubble, focus on the upcoming game and what you can control. So I'm not in a position to comment the report per se. What I can say though is that, like I said before, it's all about making sure that all the staff and all the players always feel safe at their workplace, and that's what we're passionate about. And obviously you can hear that they talk about things like that, and they want it to be safe. And that's all I can comment on as of now.